I'm just walking my dog, singing my song, strolling along. Oh, it's just me and my dog, catching some sun. We can't go wrong. My life was lonely and blue. Yeah, I was sad as a sailor. I was an angry one too.
I'm Bill Dyer. I'm with an animal group called In Defense of Animals. I've received dozens and dozens of emails filled with concern and, frankly, with despair over the death of Zephyr and the fate of animals in the Carson shelter and the alleged deplorable conditions there.
Hello, welcome to Rescue Roundtable. I'm Mary Catalano, and I have some very interesting guests here today, as I always do. I'd like to welcome Cathy Nguyen and Ryan Olshan today. We've asked them to come and talk to us because they're involved in some very interesting things as far as animal rescue. And first of all, Cathy and Ryan have been involved in working to help the county reform itself, and to put it nicely. Cathy, you have been a volunteer at the pounds in the county of Los Angeles, and Ryan, you are a private citizen involved in animal rescue, and got drawn in apparently by Cathy, which is a good deal. Cathy, you're involved in a lawsuit apparently right now with the Carson, the county of Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. Now, I've worked as a rescuer I used to volunteer in the pounds in Los Angeles. And we had our problems, and it's run differently than the county, which is unfortunate because apparently you can go to the Animal Commission meetings in Los Angeles, and there has been a lot of improvement in my relationship with the pounds and doing rescue. And of course, in the county, it's a completely different story. They had a lot of problems, and there's 4 lawsuits involved right now. So can you just tell me, first of all, Cathy, how did you get involved in animal rescue?
Well,
what is your story?
I volunteer for a shelter in Orange County, and I rescue a dog, and it's my own dog, and I just decided I need to go and help more animals, and I was helping LA City, a lot of animals from LA City, and my rescue partner, who is currently fired from LA County, got my attention. She wanted me to see the condition of county,
What do you mean fired? I love that term for volunteers.
She spoke up on behalf of the
fired,
animal.
you mean
yes,
not getting paid?
She's not getting paid.
But fired.
That's right.
I love that kind of stuff. I was fired as a volunteer also. It's a lovely story when you're doing it for free and you're fired.
Yes.
Continue.
So she wanted me to see, the first picture she sent me was of a dead dog laying on top of a crate where there was a live dog. So she said, I want you to see the condition of the shelter for yourself so that you can see why the county animals need help. So I decided to take a trip to Carson, and that was history.
Big trouble. It's big trouble. Big trouble for them.
Yes.
Because you care.
Yeah.
And people don't ever want to go. I know that the public doesn't want to go to the pound.
Nope.
They're also delicate. I just want to slap them sometimes at adoptions but of course then you don't, because they don't really want to go. They can't handle it. But when people like you, for example, or Ryan or myself go in, we want to kill ourselves. Yep. But we have to do it for some reason. We're compelled. Ryan, how did you get involved?
I started getting her emails.
Aha! You're a devil.
Around November, September, October, November, somewhere around
Just
there.
last year?
Yep.
Oh, you're way hooked in now.
Yeah.
You're big trouble. That's big trouble.
I'm the newbie to all this. But so then I started getting her emails, and I was dissatisfied with the way county was treating their animals, and so I started getting involved by going to the shelters and taking pictures and sending them emails and basically putting them on the spot. And well, apparently nothing appears to have changed. They say they're implementing change, but I haven't seen anything.
And now, so people really have no idea. First of all, the people don't want to go to the pound.
No.
The public doesn't want to go. They don't even want to go there to adopt because it's so disgusting. And I've found my experiences, I just want to shoot myself after I come out of the pound. Carson's they're all bad. But I found the city of LA is much more improved, but the county is not run by the city. Now, if somebody wanted to, say, for example, like a regular citizen wanted to complain, do they have a commission meeting for people to go to?
The way it works is the County of Los Angeles is laid out. There's a board of supervisors. Then there's a CEO who has power over all the department heads. He can fire, hire. You know, he has that sort of power. He actually was given more power when he was hired than any previous CEO has had.
CEO, that
Yes,
sounds like
the chief executive officer.
Oh, okay.
I guess basically you could equate it to maybe the mayor of the city, in the sense that he's below the board of supervisors, who would be like the city council.
Okay.
And so it's a little different structure. And then below that you have the various department directors and heads, which head off their departments. So the most logical route to go would be to complain to the board of supervisors, but including myself, you know, we send emails and we call, and it doesn't seem like anything comes of it, so it's a little frustrating. I mean, ultimately, what I'd like to see is like Los Angeles City has, some sort of an animal commission that oversees the animal control department, or has some say or power into it as to what's going on. And these people should obviously be independent third-party people that aren't really affiliated or county employees in any way, because otherwise you're going to have the same problems that are happening now.
Right, right. So so you had, but you just received something from the city council. You both were given an award.
Yes, that was for the city of Carson. This was after she was banned from adopting as a
yeah,
private
let's tell the
citizen.
story. I want to hear your story.
Well, I filed a lawsuit. Well, I've been communicating with Marcia since last year.
Marcia Maeda, who is
yes,
now,
the
who's
director.
Marcia Maeda for people who don't know?
She's the director of the LA County Animal Care and Control
Is that
Department.
all, how many shelters?
6 shelters.
Okay.
And
How long has she been in this position?
6.5 years.
Okay.
She started in July 2001, I believe. That's when
Okay.
she started, somewhere around there.
Okay.
And when I started raising my concern, she was promising all sorts of changes that never came about. So I filed a lawsuit on December 20th, and my status was revoked. I couldn't adopt.
As being what?
I couldn't adopt through a nonprofit, and I cannot adopt as a private citizen.
Yeah, I love that. I like being as a private citizen when your tax dollars pay for
That's
it.
right.
You can't go in there. So
That's
that's
right.
unbelievable.
Yeah, we may not live in Los Angeles County, but we pay taxes to the state, which trickle down to Los Angeles County. So in a way, we are taxpayers. And,
Yes.
you know.
Right. Well, that's insane. Okay, but anybody that's whistleblowers, they're always targeted.
And the county apparently doesn't have a problem violating the not Los Angeles, but the California Whistleblower Protection Act and Board of Supervisor policy, I believe it's 9.020, which also protects against whistleblowers. Now, I don't think in her case that applies, but in the case of the volunteer friend of hers who was fired, that would most certainly apply. So, I mean, they've violated a lot of things, which I pointed out, and, in the case of that, the whistleblower, and they don't seem to care, and, they think, oh, we're protected by, the county of Los Angeles, nothing's going to ever, happen to us, so we can just ignore it. And that seems to be my impression of part of the problem.
Well, what really got you to how did you figure out you needed to do a lawsuit? I mean, what really pushed you over the edge?
Well, a lot of things, and the thing with Zephyr, where
Now, people don't know about Zephyr, so tell people about Zephyr.
Zephyr came in late October, and my rescue partner thought she was a Ridgeback, so she was asked to evaluate the dog. So she put a call before PTS. That's totally different than a hold. So Zephyr was
call before put to sleep.
Yes, call
Okay.
before put to
Okay.
sleep. She was 10-month-old.
Uh-huh.
So that was on November 5th, she became sick. And, it just got progressively worse.
Uh-huh.
Then Thanksgiving holiday came around, and then it was November 30th that my rescue partner saw Zephyr again, and she was very ill. So I received a call around 7:30 that night. It was Friday, and I said, okay, well, I'll be there first thing in the morning to get her to an emergency vet. Well, first thing in the morning, she already died.
She died.
Yep.
Okay.
But Marcia and her department keep saying that my rescue partner put a hold on a dog, which is absolutely not true. She had a call before put to sleep.
Uh-huh.
She never got the call at all.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And as a result of this, Supervisor Burke, who also, there's another story about that, but she said, and the Board of Supervisors told them that William Fujioka, who's the Chief Executive Officer, and Marcia Maeda, would have to come back before them and have a report on Zephyr. Well, part of the thing that prompted that is she made an announced visit to the Carson shelter versus unannounced, and she was accompanied by Marcia Maeda, the director, the shelter or the acting shelter manager. And there's a quote that really bothers me of hers, that when she was interviewed right before the Zephyr report came out, that said it was something to the fact, I did not leave seeing mistreatment or maltreatment. Well, I mean, anybody who's nearly intelligent could figure out, if I'm going to go to the shelter and announce it, and the director is going to be there, and the acting shelter manager who was dressed in a suit, if you see, the picture of it, I mean, obviously you're not going to see any mistreatment or maltreatment. They're going to put on a good show for you. So anyway, even though with that show that put on, she said, I want you guys to come before with a report, and they postponed it. They finally came forward with a report, which was pretty much chock full of lies, and it was, I couldn't believe what I was reading. Part of it saying the rescue partner put a hold on it, and in the actual original record, there were no vaccinations, and then the public records request on the record showed she had vaccinations. So it looks like they forged records there and started putting vaccination. And the thing about the vaccination was it was on the 27th of November, and on that date there was a note that said, very sick, put to sleep. Now, I don't know about any animal that was that sick or about to be put to sleep that you would all of a sudden vaccinate. It just seems kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
There's a lot of things in this report, and it's just amazing that this chief executive officer would sign his name to something like that. Like, he just let, Marcia, Maeda put it together, and, when it really should have been an independent third party doing this investigation, because if your department's in hot water like that and you do your investigation, most likely you're going to cover your tracks and come up with something that looks like, oh, it wasn't our fault, it was a misunderstanding. The report is just... And in the Board of Supervisors, they just accepted the report. They didn't really question it, because I had sent them a list of, things that I had pointed out, that contradictions and lies in it, way before their Board of Supervisors meeting, and they just, like it was nothing. They're like, okay, thank you for your report. So I was just amazed at how this was handled, and now it's just, brushed under the rug here, and it's over with, And there's so many other animals like Zephyr that don't get the attention that she did, that are, going to needlessly suffer, and it's just sad.
Well, now I have some information here that you gave me about. This is some of the things that the lawsuit. There's like 4 lawsuits against the county right now.
I was told there were 4 by a representative of one of the supervisors, but I only know of 3, so I don't know if this fourth one is coming about or it's official, and I haven't heard of it yet. But I know of 3 ones right now.
Okay, tell me about the ones you have that you're.
The first lawsuit was A Dog's Life, and that was filed, I believe, in July or June of 2006, and that was regarding somebody who was fostering these 2 dogs for this rescue organization that had handed them over to the shelter, and right as they were impounded, or I don't even think they were impounded, around that time, within an hour of being at the shelter, these animals were killed.
Okay.
So the lawsuit is more questioning, Hayden's law, and they didn't have the right to do that, especially since it was the foster parent. And so it kind of questions that, and how quickly the dog was killed without being held, or both dogs that were killed at the shelter without being held. So that I don't know exactly where that lawsuit is right now. But
well, now explain to people. Now people are not familiar with the Hayden Bills. So
basically, Hayden law, Senator Tom Hayden basically he was a California state senator.
Right.
Put together a law that basically provided, certain protections to shelter animals, such as, having to scan for microchipping before and upon impound and before euthanasia, mandatory hold dates, ensuring basic things like food, water, food, water, shelter, stuff like that. So it was basically to provide animals with certain protections that, before, really under law, they didn't have. So it was for the protection.
Well, now, as far as I understand before the Hayden Bill was in effect, you could take your animal, if you didn't want it, to the pound, and it would be killed within about half an hour. They were allowed to kill it, whether or not it was healthy, rehomable, whatever, And that is unbelievable to me. Yep. Now, apparently, the county has been violating that law on a regular basis. That's an owner surrender. Now, the hold period now is 4 days, correct?
There's owner surrender euthanasia, and they hold them, I believe it's 4 days, not counting days they're closed or holidays.
But wait a minute, are they allowed to do that?
What do you mean allowed to do that?
Are they allowed, if you, I want my dog killed?
It's a service they provide, so if you or I wanted to come in, since it's not mandated by state law, we could say, I want that animal, and they'd have to adopt you. At least that's my impression of it, because it's a program that they provide or a service that they provide to the citizens of Los Angeles County, so it's not a state-mandated thing. Program.
No, but in the Dog's Life Rescue, apparently
that was like
they just
within
killed,
an hour.
Yeah, well, that's insane.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
And the dogs were not sick or whatever. Okay.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. So continue. You were telling about the other
lawsuits. The second
lawsuits.
lawsuit filed was Cathy's lawsuit, and that's that is No Kill Advocacy Center and Cathy Nguyen and some others versus Los Angeles County and Marcia Maeda, and I believe the board of supervisors are on that too. That one is also the basis of that is
Well, basically to stop violating state and California
Right, the Hayden
law,
bill,
the
right?
Hayden
Hayden
bill,
Okay,
law,
uh-huh.
yes.
and to be accountable,
Okay.
asking very heavily for accountability from
They're
leadership.
not even asking for money either.
No.
I believe that neither one of these
Yeah.
lawsuits that you've mentioned have asked for money, which
No.
is, to me, that's insane because I take the money and
Yeah.
go pay for vet bills. But
Yeah.
but I still think that because it's not asking for money,
Yep.
it's more, it leaves a bigger impression on me. That's all. Okay. It's
Yeah,
for
so it's
stop.
for-
It's cessation of practice or whatever they
Yes.
call it in the legal
Yep.
term. Yeah.
The third one, which was filed in, I think it was January of 2008, is Delta Rescue versus Los Angeles County, the county auditor, the CEO, Marcia Maeda, and the board of supervisors for basically misappropriation and misuse of funding and fraud
Things.
and other related things along
That's
that.
all.
And yeah, it's more of to expose their fraud or their alleged fraud that they're doing by defrauding the taxpayers. So it states that some of the money that may have been overstated by tens of millions of dollars or millions of dollars, something along that line. So it's more about fraud. The other two are more about the violating the Hayden law and other laws, California state laws in regards to the animals they impound. This one's about fraud.
So now, there's a couple of videos apparently that people can access about your. Now what's in the videos that you have that?
The videos that I have, well, there's a couple, 2 or 3 or 4 of them. They're from the media kit or the press kit from her lawsuit.
And how could someone access that? Because I think
I actually have a blog where I blog about Los Angeles County, and that's.
No, you can't.
Yeah, I think you can.
Yes.
I think people could just do
Yes.
do a Google under your name and
Yes.
find it, right? And how do you spell your last name, Ryan, for people?
Olshan, Olshan.
So Ryan Olshan, they can
Yes.
Google you and then probably find that blog if they
Yes.
need to. Yeah, go ahead. So continue.
So there's 2 videos on there from the Carson City Council meeting where we and some other people were awarded an award for our commitment to help the animals. And then there's where Marcia gave a speech to tell what their progress was and what their plans are for the future. And then there's some public comments in that one also. And then the other ones are basically for her lawsuit, some videos that were taken of, a puppy and its mother. I don't remember the specific circumstances. They were separated or something.
It was a
Yeah,
sick puppy at
yeah,
the
sick
Carson
puppy.
shelter.
Yeah.
Then empty water bowls and other things that show the violation of the state law and Hayden law.
I don't think anybody can see the pictures you showed me, but these are pictures that are available on that website
Yes.
also of dogs laying near feces and
And pills
mean-
on the floor instead of in the dog.
It's what now?
The medication.
Oh, the pills. Yeah, these are pills up here. I guess nobody can really see that. It's kind of unless
Right.
you got in there, but it's available on the
Yes.
media kit, right? This is disgraceful because how many times a day does a dog poop?
Yeah.
Once. So you've got several days worth of poop, and that's how they're living in their last days. It's pretty horrifying.
And they're saying, well,
Here's
dogs
the
poop.
dead dog on top. I don't think you
That's
can
the
see it.
picture that got
The
me.
dead dog on top of the dog in the cage.
And notice the empty cage next to it. They could put the live dog in there, but they didn't.
I don't get it.
But
Yeah.
in regards to the feces, their excuses, well, dogs poop. I mean, it's understandable, dogs poop. But when I go there and there's a lot of cages filled with, poop that looks like it's been there for a day or hours and it's
yeah.
not been cleaned, well, then that's where the problem is.
Well, when you see the employees reading the newspaper and
Yeah,
picking
or
their nose and chatting.
Smoking cigarettes or
Smoking
just hanging
cigarettes.
out or ignoring
Yeah.
the public, it's,
That's always a
Yeah.
really exciting thing. I mean, now, apparently you have lawyers that are taking on the case, which are pro bono, which I think is fantastic. That's what they need to be doing. I mean, apparently they're involved because they care about animals, which I think is terrific because nobody has any money that does rescue. That's just crazy. And Nathan Winograd, some people are not familiar with who Nathan Winograd is. We've had him on the show before. And he's working with the No Kill Advocacy Center, and that's part of
Yes.
working with your lawsuit. So one of the things I was wondering is I found out that there's just so many things that are different than, what do you want people to know about the county? I mean, what do you want them to know about what's going on? The public.
I'd like the public to know the mistreatment of the animals that is going on in terms of filthy cages and, not medicating them properly, which by me exposing that, what they resulted in doing was taking all the red medical cards which were on the cage, which said, what they were sick with, what medication they were getting, and how often they were supposed to get it, and the kennel attendants would write, oh, I gave them medication at this time, and that way it would keep track of, if they were getting medicated. Well, what would happen is it would have an absence of 1 or 2 days, and then it would go, and then sometimes 5 or 6 days, and there was a pattern that animals weren't getting medicated. Now, the most disturbing part of this was they were saying, we killed this animal and that animal because they weren't responding to treatment. Now, they weren't responding to treatment because they weren't being medicated on their antibiotics properly, which anybody knows, the treatment's not effective unless you go as prescribed. So they were killing a lot of animals because they're saying this one didn't respond to treatment, this one didn't respond to treatment. Well, they weren't medicating them properly.
Lovely.
So in response to that, what they did was they removed these red cards off of the cage and they put them in the clinic with the RVT or the veterinarian who was ever doing the medications. So now the members of the public like me or anybody else don't really know if they're getting medicated. There's no way to tell. And they said at the Marcia said at the Carson City Council meeting that they had done that at all the shelters, because they were trying to improve them getting their medication because they were in a place that was much more accessible and members would take them off the cage. I don't know about you, but I'm not itching to go steal red medical cards off the cages. So, and then I went to the Downey Shelter after this, and I had noticed that the cards were still on the cage. So to me, that says, they took them down because they didn't want the public to know that they weren't medicating them properly. I mean, I can only speculate on their reasoning, but I mean, why would you do it at one shelter and not the other shelters?
Right, that's the policy.
Yep.
So have you been to the other shelters? Have you been to the other counties?
Yes, we've been to 4
How many
out of the
others?
6.
Lancaster?
We've been to Lancaster, Downey,
Baldwin
Carson,
Park.
and Baldwin Park. The ones we haven't been to are Agoura Hills and Castaic.
Okay.
Now, I've heard that out of all the 6 shelters, Agoura Hills is probably the
better
best
one.
one.
Well, it might
Yeah.
be because of the people that live
location.
there.
Yep. It's
I
in
mean,
more of a
upscale.
ritzier, upscale location. Yeah. And they
It's
seem to
like-
have. I heard they have a lot of volunteers, and it's more kind of seems run by the volunteers.
It's like a hobby for
Yeah.
rich ladies to
Yeah.
do for be volunteers as opposed to getting in the trenches. Like I used to volunteer at South LA. I just wanted to shoot myself every day. So because it's a completely different demographic than you want even adopting your animals. This is the high dumping rate. So what's the percentage of animals killed, do you think, in the counties?
Last fiscal year, according to a recent Los Angeles Times article where Marcia Mayeda was interviewed, the statistics said about 61% of the animals that they impounded, which was about 85,000. I think that works out to a little over 40 or about 50,000 animals were killed, 61%, that's very high. It's a high number of animals to kill. I attribute that to, based upon my experiences with Los Angeles County, not working with rescue groups, because I've heard a lot of rescue groups that say, oh, when I go to Los Angeles City, it's just such a pleasure. I want this dog. They say, okay, we'll have it ready for you. We'll transfer it to this shelter if you want. Then they're like, I go to LA County, and it's just so problematic. They say they'll get it through the clinic, and it's not through the clinic, or they fight me, or they say this dog's aggressive. We have to temperament test. I mean, the stories I hear, it's just a mess.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I'm amazed sometimes.
I found out, I just was asking Cathy about this before the show, but I mean, first of all, the city is much better. Yeah. Oh my God, we're running out of time already. I mean, it's now if you're New Hope, which is the New Hope program, which is where you get the animals are free to rescue, which isn't really free because you spend thousands of dollars on vet bills. Usually, that's where all your money goes. So people don't seem to understand that, and it's funny how people. Plus, rescue groups, when they charge a fee to the public, they are actually willing to take the animal back through its whole entire lifetime and rehome it if necessary, but hopefully not getting into that situation. Now, of course, at the pound, the animals are just dead, basically.
In the rescue world, free is not really free.
It's never free. No, but what's interesting is I found it unfortunate. I couldn't believe that first of all, as a member of the public adopting from the county, you have to, if you want a second animal, you have to pay more.
Yep.
So, okay, what does it cost? Tell me how this is crazy. I think this is nuts.
They have this program through their foundation, I think it's called the Animal Care Foundation, where they say, okay, on the first animal you adopt, we'll cover the spay or the neuter. So it comes out to about $37 or something. Then you go to adopt the second one, and it's about $60. So the price, and that's every animal you adopt after the first one, it's like double the price. And if you're a rescue, the price is, I think it's like $2 off, $35 for each animal that you take out of there. And then if you have, what were you saying, puppies and stuff, this just adds up. They make you put trust deposits down. I mean,
if
you get out a mother, to make sure that you get them spayed or neutered, and then you bring it back and they refund you.
is that trust deposit go to the spay and neuter of the puppy or not?
Well, you bring the puppy back, and then they will refund that money.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you were trying to bail out a mom and a litter of 12 puppies, you could see
Forget
that
it.
could add up to a fortune very easily.
Yeah,
And, you know, yep.
it's just crazy. Now, but to me, to have it be more to get a second animal when you're trying to, encourage people to adopt, it's craziness. Because I mean, once you rescue, like for example, I do cats mostly. You want people to take 2 cats.
And a lot of these shelters are not in the nicest areas, so the income's a little lower. So in those areas, $60, may be a lot for that person. That may deter them from adopting a second animal.
Right, which is, I mean, that's what's horrendous about it, because you should be happy that people are adopting and not make it difficult whatsoever. And also, unfortunately, I found that if they have to come back and get the animal, I don't know how many days later when they get it to get it fixed. I mean, if you pick an animal that's not fixed, how long is the time? What is the time?
They won't release the animal without getting it
Well, that's
fixed
good.
first.
I'm very happy about that. God forbid, right? God forbid, because people are not going to do it, or they're going to, they'll slip up. The animal will get out and breed forever.
Right.
But how long does it take to get your animal from the?
Usually the day after.
Uh-huh.
Not on a Friday. The public can adopt on Thursday. They go to the clinic, and then you can pick the animal up on Saturday.
Yeah. Wow.
Now, I
Usually.
heard a story about Lancaster where I think the veterinarian injured himself or something. So people were having to wait like 20, 23 days to get the animals out of there. It was just ridiculous.
I'm sure. Well, that's a lovely story.
So they have to sit in there for 23 days and
Oh, my
break
God.
down, and
And they couldn't
that
get-
23 days could be a difference between them coming out aggressive or something happening just because of the setting.
Well,
or,
getting sick also,
or sick
getting
too.
sick and then deciding that they have to kill them.
And sickness is a big problem in the LA County shelters, because I've come to notice that they don't disinfect their cages properly and they don't isolate their sick animals. So, I mean, obviously, it's a breeding ground for bacteria and diseases there.
Oh, it's absolutely filthy.
I
I've
mean,
seen it. It's disgusting.
Pretty much 99% of the animals that people get out of the shelters, they come out sick. They have kennel cough or parvo or distemper.
You know what? We're done with it. We're out of time. We may have to do another show. I really want to thank you for everything you guys are doing.
Well, thank you
I'm
for
very,
having
very
us.
happy that you're going on with this lawsuit. It's got to happen. People have got to make the changes. They've got to fight them, hurt them where they live, and changing the laws and changing the practices through the law is a great way to do it. Thank you so much for everything you guys do, and thanks for coming to our show. And we're going to have you back, because we want to know what's going on. Continue.
Okay.
Thanks a lot. See you next time. Thanks a lot.
Certificate of recognition to be presented to Karen Barone, Dr. Rita Boggs, Brad Jensen, Cathy Nguyen, Ryan Olshan, Janet Taylor, and Olivia Verrett for their efforts in rescuing animals in the community and for their dedication to improving the quality of life for these animals. Congratulations. Good job, Karen.
Let me just say that these courageous people go out of their way to rescue animals throughout our city. Now, it's only the city of Carson, but also surrounding cities. We know that there are some challenges going on, at least with one of the animal shelters in Carson, but these courageous people take it upon themselves as animals lovers to take in unwanted animals. And so for that, I think they deserve a round of applause again.